Hello and welcome to the opening bell, the first one of 2014. Tris Dixon is out the office and I believe he's with Colin Nathan today for a feature that's coming up. So that leaves, I'm afraid, just myself, Matt Christie, and my colleague John Dennen to welcome you to the new year. And it ended really, really well for Stuey Hall. I think the result was a minor surprise for both of us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a real rocky story. And boxing is full of them, but this is a genuine one. He's kind of came from nowhere, and now he's IBF champion. What was your thoughts on watching the fight?
Yeah, well, I think, as we'd said in the previous edition of this podcast, I had never imagined Stuey Hall being a world champion.
Yeah.
But, you know, he dug really deep to win. It was a hard fight, good fight to watch. And he finished it like a champion. So congratulations to him. It is, Jamie McDonnell's former title. And I think Stewie's sick of people talking about McDonnell. But they're going to because of the way McDonnell was stripped of the belt. I guess the interesting thing is, will those two ever, meet in a rematch, or will their different television providers, their different promotional organisations sort of keep them apart? It's an obvious fight, though.
Yeah, it is. I think the issue probably, like you say there, is fact is that Stuey Hall has pledged his loyalty to Dennis Hobson. And whatever went on behind closed doors, the relations between McDonnell and Hobson certainly are not good, and I think that would be the biggest stumbling block. And Stuey Hall, I spoke to him a few days after the fight, and he was still aching and everything else, but he did say, as you said there, he's just sick and tired of, although he has absolute respect for McDonnell and what he's achieved and everything else, he just wants his moment. But I think, when the dust has settled, that I think he'll realise that really is the fight that people now want to see. Did you think at any point, because he started off really well, didn't he, Stuey Hall? He dropped him, I think, was it in the second or third round? But then Malinga started to come into it in the middle rounds, and for a while there I thought the dreams were going to unravel a bit. Did you think the decision was fair at the end?
I did, especially because of the sort of, I think, if you finish strongly, that also makes a difference in my mind when I'm watching the fight. Yeah. But it did seem like it was beginning to slip away from him. But then he grabbed the fight back, and I think he deserved it. Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. I think it was a fair. I think we had something on the website where I think one boxing writer had it a draw out of 20, but the other 19, believe that Hall deserved to win, and I don't think there can be any denying that Hall deserved that. It seems like such a long time ago, and we did speak about it briefly, that we looked at the review of last year in the issue before the current one that's out at the moment. Our British Fighter of the Year was Carl Froch. Some people disagreed with that because of the nature of the George Groves battle. George Groves, incidentally, was at number 6 in our British list. We all sat down and kind of worked this out together. Do you still think we made the right choice in having Froch at number 1?
Yeah, of course, because I'm paid to think that.
Yeah.
But also, I think the argument is Froch was in the two biggest and probably two of the best British fights of last year. Great win over Kessler, and Groves. Froch Groves was a great fight, and Carl Froch, technically won it. I think because of Groves' performance, maybe George could have been a bit higher in the rankings against Froch. But I suppose that's the controversy about having Froch at number 1. But
It's difficult though, isn't it? It's difficult to put Groves. I noticed there's some websites as Groves as their fighter of the year, which I find, although not wishing to knock George Groves and what he achieved in the Carl Froch fight, I find that odd a little bit. The guys we had above him, Darren Barker, Quigg, McDonnell, Frampton, and I suspect if we'd have had a little bit longer to put this issue together and we could have got Stuey Hall fighting, Stuey Hall may even have picked Groves as well, because they all won world titles, they all won at world level, and whatever you make of the controversial stoppage, George Groves didn't, and I think that's why we came to the conclusion that we did.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have had Stuey Hall in the up there though.
It's up to you. That would be your choice. But I think that because these guys won world titles, then perhaps they deserved to be a little bit higher than Groves, which, you know, I'm not denying that the stoppage was controversial. I think we've spoke about that too much anyway.
Yeah. Well, so Frampton, he didn't win a world title, but he stopped a guy who then went on to win a world title.
But Martinez won over the festive period as well, didn't he? And I know you were not thinking that Martinez was going to win that fight.
I suppose I keep writing him off.
I didn't fancy Martinez in that fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But do you think Martinez inexplicably is improving?
Yeah. Well, the saying is that, you know, once you're a champion, you fight better.
Yeah.
So I think he is improving, but they also must have got Mathapula at the right time.
Yeah,
It looked like it's over for him, really.
Would you pick Frampton to repeat his success over Martinez? Would he stop him again?
I'd pick him to do that.
You would,
I think plus when you've got a stoppage victory over someone, it often tends to repeat itself.
Yeah. It was a wonderful shot though from Frampton, wasn't it? Not Martinez out. Well, to me now that has got a lot more appeal than it had, I don't know, a few weeks ago. The Frampton Martinez rematch, really, I really like the look of that.
But do you think Martinez is gonna want that? He's got options, doesn't he?
He has got options, yeah.
Scott Quick was out in Spain to see that fight as well.
Yeah. I don't know. Martinez, speaking before, I think after he'd won the title, he did say that he wanted Frampton again. So, you know, I'd expect him. You know, I'd expect him to want to get his revenge. So, you know, let's see what happens. Will Quigg Frampton happen next year, John?
I would be surprised if it did. So I'd say no. I just think when you're with, you know, it just seems in boxing when you're with. Actually, I suppose that's not always the case. You know, Billy Joe Saunders fought John Ryder, and they're from, you know, different TV backers. But we've been calling for it for so long, and it hasn't happened yet. And there didn't seem, once Scott Quigg won a version of the world title, you'd hope that might be a catalyst for making it happen. There doesn't seem a stampede to make that fight. So I'd obviously want to see it, but I'd be surprised if it happened. Yeah, and there are plenty of good fights to be made with either of them in that division, whether they can get in with Kiko Martinez, Leo Santa Cruz. There's some top super bantamweights around. So,
will it ever happen?
Yes.
It will happen one day, will it? So we're okay.
They're both young. You know.
Okay, so if we take Quigg and Frampton out of the equation, if you could pick one British matchup, what would you like to see next year?
I mean, we've said Froch Groves before, but I think that is still the most appealing fight out there.
Yeah.
Aside from that, Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora too.
Yeah, that's
a lot's happened since they fought. That'll be a rumble.
Yeah, I really like that. Now, would you? I mean, Fury. I was at that fight, and Fury was in control, but Chisora was kind of always in it as well. He kind of had Fury looking uncomfortable a few times. Chisora certainly not as fit as he has been recently. Would you pick that to be a similar result as last time, which Fury won a fairly comfortable unanimous decision?
I don't think it'd be comfortable for Fury. I think it would probably be hard to pick against Fury. But having said that, Chisora looks so much better than he did back when they first fought. He's going to be a handful for anyone. And if Fury's not motivated, if he's in the sort of situation Derek Chisora was in then, you know, a big fight had fallen through and he's sort of coming back to fight in Britain, then he could be in a real precarious position. So I wouldn't actually... hard to make a pick with any confidence because, you know, Fury's just been sort of kicking his heels, inactive. Yeah. Whereas Chisora's been busy. He's been looking dangerous as well. But I suppose I would pick Fury to win it because he's taller.
you like a good tall man, don't you?
I know. Having said that formula did not work for me. Martinez was way shorter than Mathapula.
He was. It didn't work out, did it?
What do I know, though?
You know enough, I think. I think you know enough. Okay, just kind of lots of things going on in boxing at the moment, but there's no concrete fights coming up this weekend to talk about. But there has been some bits and bobs in the news. Amir Khan, Floyd Mayweather, according to a newspaper that hasn't always been that reliable of late, is apparently now signed and sealed for May. You like that fight, don't you, Amir Khan, Floyd Mayweather?
I do.
How much of a chance has Amir Khan got? If you've got, say you've got £100 to your name, and this £100 has to last you for a month.
Right.
Right. But you are allowed to gamble.
With it,
yeah. You see, in order to perhaps give you a bit more spending cash for the month, how much of that £100 would you put on Amir Khan beating Floyd Mayweather, bearing in mind the returns you'd get?
Yeah. I've got to make that £100 last for a month.
You have. You can also bet it on. You could also bet it on Floyd Mayweather if you wanted to, but bear in mind you would get very little return.
Yeah. This is
it's a good question. Isn't it?
And this requires loads of maths. I don't know. I don't think Khan's going to win, so I'll put £1 on him,
right,
just in case.
Yeah.
And I have to put the rest on Mayweather, so I could basically just starve this month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll put £5 on Amir.
But how much? But do you give him a chance? Because you think that it'll be interesting for a few rounds.
Yeah, my view is that even though the sort of result is in an inevitable Mayweather win,
yeah,
I think it'll be an exciting fight while it lasts.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it interesting, and I think Khan could pose him problems that we might not have seen.
Yeah,
because he's he's such a fast, frenzied attacker.
Yeah.
But I don't give him much of a chance of winning, even though I want to see the fight.
Do you think Mayweather stops Khan?
Yep.
Do you? I've seen quite a few bits and bobs on people's Facebook pages, in forums, and people's opinion is that basically as soon as Mayweather lands, Khan is going to be finished. Is that a little bit unfair on Amir Khan, bearing in mind that Mayweather, although he is a good finisher when he gets the chance, for example, against Ricky Hatton and what have you. But he's not like a puncher like Danny Garcia. He's not a puncher like Bridus Prescott. Are we underestimating Khan's durability a little bit here?
Khan he's got a lot of heart. Obviously, we've seen him get knocked down, but even when he's out on his feet, he sort of keeps on fighting.
Yeah.
And Mayweather, I suppose, doesn't seem the type to really sort of, when he's got someone hurt, to really go for them and overwhelm them. He obviously likes to pick those sort of clean shots, and it was like a clean knockout with Ricky Hatton. But I think he'll be able to find the holes in Amir's defence. Even though Virgil Hunter might have made some improvements. Yeah. I think when Amir's hurt, he'll revert to his sort of warrior instincts, which is what makes him an exciting fighter. It's why we love to watch him. But I think it's easy to forget the way Khan sort of survived and dug in against Maidana. I think he is tough, but the knockouts don't help you give you much credit for having a good chin or being durable.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Mayweather is his blasts are accurate and they're fast, and I think that as much as the power could be what dispenses with Khan. But I think head on the chopping block, I would suspect Khan. If the fight happens, I would pick Khan to last the distance. And I think it would be a better fight than many people expect. Moving on to Ricky Burns, his fight with his mandatory WBO defence against Terence Crawford has been confirmed for March 1st, I believe. It's a massive, massive fight for Ricky Burns. He had a really, really dodgy 2013, didn't he? I mean, he kind of dug in against Jose Gonzalez, and he dug in immensely against Beltran. Apparently he fought for like 10 rounds with a broken jaw, which is unthinkable to the vast majority of us. But at the same time, he was not the same Ricky Burns as we'd seen Was he just having a bad year? Were those fighters bad for him? Or is he slipping? And let's remember, what is he now, 31? Is he 30, 31? There is a chance that Ricky Burns is past his best, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I think, he's been a world champion for a very long time, and it's just hard for anyone to stay at that level for so long. So, on the year gone by, you've got to say he's slipping, and you wouldn't have thought he'd have had such a hard time with those opponents like a couple of years ago. He could be able to. I don't know how he's going to come back. What he's going to be like when he comes back from this injury. Does having a steel jaw help you, or is it hard psychologically when to come back from that? But Felix Sturm is an example of a champion who I was sure was sort of slipping and sliding out, away from the top level, and he bounced back in great form. Whether Ricky will bounce back in this particular fight, we'll have to see.
To me, it's a fascinating contest. It is Crawford bags of ability, but unproven really at this level. But I think Ricky Burns' last two performances, I just don't know. I sense that the end is nigh for Ricky Burns. But it would be a wonderful story if it wasn't, and we could write another few chapters to what has been an unexpected success story. Okay, moving on again. David Price split with Adam Booth. They were together just really for a couple of months, and he's signed up with Tommy Brooks, the accomplished American trainer. What were your initial thoughts when you heard this news?
I mean, it seems like bad news for David Price, just because the sort of, when it was announced who his trainer was, his new promoter, you're hoping this was, it's not a good new start when you have to rearrange things so quickly without even having a fight with him. I don't know the ins and outs of why they've split. And I do like David Price, but Adam Booth he sort of could have been a good trainer for helping restore his confidence, because he does have that Dark Lord aura about him. Yeah. But we'll see. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's kind of what people have said is that Booth, I think, wanted to be manager and trainer. Sauerlands was saying that they didn't want Booth to have any kind of managerial rights over David Price. So Booth walked away. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. We will hopefully get that confirmed for the magazine next week.
But it's not good for David.
No, not at all. Exactly, because I think what you say after those two losses to Tony Thompson, it really is a case now of steadying the ship, and that was the most crucial thing. I think the guy is fighting in January, later this month, January 25th, I believe, is not the most threatening of opponents, but at the same time, David Price will still have quite a lot going on in his head. And I don't think this will help. However, Tommy Brooks, who did throw his name into the hat when David Price was initially looking for a trainer, is a good trainer. He's trained the likes of Evander Holyfield, and he's got great pedigree. So maybe it will work out in the long run for him. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Something else that came out this week is it all looks set for June the 7th, which is my birthday, incidentally. Madison Square Garden showdown between Sergio Martinez and Miguel Cotto. Now, had this been made a few years ago, when Martinez looked like he was at his peak, I'd have not been so keen on this fight. But with Cotto kind of coming back, looking so good against Delvin Rodriguez last time out, Martinez a little bit shaky, this is a bit more of an even matchup for me. I quite fancy Cotto's chances, in fact. I'm not sure if until I kind of look into it a bit deeper, whether or not I'd go as far as picking him. But what do you make of this fight? Just 6 months away from it. What's your first impressions?
Yeah, I think it's a great fight, high level, hard to pick a winner, because you got to think Martinez almost from that last round against Chavez Jr. He's old, he's injured.
Yeah.
Obviously Martin Murray pushed him really hard, and then he's been out of the picture sort of since April of last year. So that makes him look like a champion who's ready for the taking. And even though Cotto, what he'd be coming up presumably they'd be making it a catch weight. Is that
confirmed?
Yeah.
No, I think the initial was people like 157, 158, something like that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if Cotto's coming up a bit too far, but then he looked great against Delvin Rodriguez, last person to give Floyd Mayweather problems.
Yeah. So
I think it's a great fight, and obviously I reserve the right to change my mind, but you think could all be in place for Cotto to make some history.
It would be the kind of the flip side of that as well is, and it is, logic would dictate that Martinez is sliding, but often a fighter will take a break, and maybe his body just did need a bit of time to repair. So I'm talking about Sergio Martinez, and he will come back and he will look fantastic, and he'll box Cotto's head off. He'll just be too tall, too big for him. And that wouldn't be a surprising outcome either. But that has just got...
You convinced me. I'm changing my mind.
But it has got bags and bags of intrigue. That for a world middleweight title fight, I really, really like the look of that.
Exactly. And two of the best fighters in the whole sport.
Yeah, no, definitely. That'd be a fantastic occasion. Right, how long have we got left? Ooh, okay. Let's move on to Roy Jones Jr. He won. I haven't seen this fight, to be honest with you, but he won, I believe, on December 20th, 21st, something like that. He looked okay against an unknown opponent. He won some spurious belts, some vacant German WBU cruiserweight title, which, not a great surprise that was vacant. And he was going to fight. He wanted to fight. What was his name?
Anderson Silva,
who suffered a horrendous break. Did you see that?
Horrific.
Yeah, I saw. I just saw that briefly on YouTube. So, what. I'd quite like to speak to Roy Jones Jr. and what is he doing? Is it money? Is it money that's keeping him going? Does he just love it so much that that's what he wants to do?
Yeah.
But I fear that this win is now going to be
encourage him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I spoke to him briefly when I was at the Bradley Marquez fight.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely, he sort of dismisses talk of retiring. He's absolutely just maybe it's because he loves the sport. Maybe he's lost a lot of the money he made, but he still clearly do well out of his TV commentary gigs.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a combination of money and passion for boxing. But often you see the qualities that make someone a great champion, believing they can do things that other people can't. Then when it gets on in their career, they've still got those qualities that help make them great, but can get them in trouble for carrying on too long. Like Evander Holyfield.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that's often mentioned with Roy Jones Jr. is that one of his friends, Gerald McClellan, suffered those horrific injuries against Nigel Benn, and Roy Jones used to go and see him, and he used to say, look, I'm definitely not going to carry on. I'm not going to fight beyond my best. I'm going to walk away as soon as basically, as soon as any signs that I'm slipping. Those signs have been there for, I would say, since the first Antonio Tarver fight, which I believe was 2003 or 2004. So it's a long time now that Jones Jr. has been fighting. While he has been an inferior beast to that wonderful fighting machine that we saw kind of take the boxing world by storm. And I wonder if deep down he must know he's not the fighter that he was. Did you get that impression that he knows that?
I can't imagine him ever admitting it, or it's hard. Yeah, I mean, just the facts sort of speak for themselves, but he must have that sort of unshakable wall of self-belief that you can't really break through to try and say you're not what you were.
Yeah, and when moving on from that to Danny Williams, who when I remember during the interview process for this job, which was over for my position, which was over 4 years ago now, and I was given Danny Williams' telephone number, and I had to do an interview with him. And I remember speaking to him, and he was then saying, "I'm absolutely shot to pieces. Nothing like I used to be. I believe I think he was supposed to be fighting Sam Sexton in a defence of his British heavyweight title. Williams, I believe, had come through couple of tough encounters with John McDermott, and I think later that year, 2010, he lost to Derek Chisora at Upton Park, and from then really he's been fighting on the continent, but this week he lost to a Czech journeyman, Mrazek, forgive the pronunciation because it's probably not right, but I believe Mrazek had won 9 of about 60 fights going in. Danny Williams, of course, perhaps best known, certainly worldwide, for beating Mike Tyson. He was one of my favourite British champions, and it's a real shame to see him fighting on like this, and it does it. But the other side of it is we're sat here in the office, we're getting paid a monthly wage. Who are we to tell these people to stop doing, basically, to stop earning money? It's tough, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, the important thing for any boxer is to have options outside of just being a competitor, whether it's other roles in boxing, like a coach or a trainer, or just finding other things in your life as well. Because I don't think you want to be in a position where, if you're fighting just to make a living rather than for the love of it or for what you can win, that's a bad place to be, and it's a shame to see.
No, it is. And then, Roy Jones Jr. and Danny Williams, they're not, of course, the only ones that are doing that are continuing. And, it's sad to see, but it's also an inevitability of boxing, I'm afraid. Okay, well, let's end this on a slightly cheerier note. If we're looking ahead to 2014, okay, we mentioned British fights. What would be if you could make any fight in the world, what would it be?
Oh God, I do think Cotto Martinez is a great fight, and that's looking like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Golovkin in with, I suppose, the best out there, Mayweather coming up.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be bad.
What about Andre Ward? Golovkin?
I'm open to that. Andre Ward, Chavez Jr. maybe. That'd be quite a big fight.
Yeah, I just think that's. I think we've spoke about it before. I just think that's got 120, 180. Yeah. Andre Ward written all over it.
Andre Ward, Adonis Stevenson.
Good fight.
All right, obviously Kovalev Stevenson. Someone's getting knocked out there.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be my. I mean, I will still keep banging on about Pacquiao and Mayweather, but after that, Stevenson, Kovalev, I think would be my favourite. What about? I mean, Bernard Hopkins is looks like he's been lined up to fight by Shumenov, the WBA champion, in which would be a unification fight. Hopkins seems like he's being kept away from the likes of Stevenson and Kovalev, which is understandable. If Hopkins versus Kovalev was made, who would you pick?
Kovalev.
If Hopkins Stevenson was made, who would you pick?
Probably Stevenson.
Would you give Hopkins a chance in either of those two fights?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But he's so old; it can't go on forever. I say this every time.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be you don't want just time to catch up with you
against.
When you're in, such huge punches like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Hopkins Shumenov makes sense, and you might have a hard time with Shumenov, and then we'll be saying it's time for him to.
Yeah. So Shumenov, Hopkins, who are you picking?
Probably Hopkins, too clever.
Right.
What about you?
I don't know. I was starting to think that perhaps Hopkins might be too old now. Shumenov looked good in his last performance, although he has looked limited before that, and he had quite a spell of inactivity before that. So it does look like another opponent that's made to extend the Bernard Hopkins time at the top. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, and one more. I mean, these we have in this week's issue. If you haven't got it yet, it is available to download. It is in the newsagents. But one question that we all, or the whole Boxing News team, sat down and really we did look into the future a little bit. What would be our wishes? What are our predictions and that sort of thing? But one question which I think was particularly pertinent for you is which 2012 Olympian will come into his own in 2014? So talk me through that one.
Well, I've sung Luke Campbell's praises many times
So
before, but on this occasion, I think Lomachenko could win a world title in his second sort of traditionally professional fight.
How old is he?
25, 26?
Okay.
I'll have to check, but he's got 2 Olympics in, and he's still pretty young.
So imagine he wins a world title in his second fight. How great a fighter can he become? So if he's 25, 26, imagine he's got maybe at least 5 years left, kind of at the top level. What can he achieve in those 5 or 6 years?
You sort of dread to think, unifying belts through different divisions. Like, he's already, if you were to win a world title so quickly, then he's already a great fighter because he's got 2 Olympic gold medals. One of Al Balcatrov being the best fighter in the Olympics. He won his second Olympics at too big a weight category for him. Is really a 57 kilos fight, and they changed the weight. They changed the weights. And then to get a world title straight away in the pros, he's already great. But he'd be someone who'd be around sport for a long time, and he'd be a sort of, really what he's got the potential to be one of those sort of breakout boxing stars. Even though he's not American. Manny Pacquiao did it.
Yeah.
So I think learning English might help his star power, but he's certainly got an aura about him. But then, what if he loses?
He could. I mean, it's conceivable, isn't it, that he could lose? He could, win the early rounds. He could look fantastic. He could get to round 8, 9, 10, 11, and he unravels. And Salido is tough as nails. He isn't going in with. Okay, he's not going in with the best world champion in the division.
Yeah.
But he's certainly not going with anyone where you'd think that it's going to be one-way traffic for Lomachenko.
Yeah. But I wouldn't bet against Lomachenko.
No, I wouldn't either. Is there a danger though, because he's kind of he's almost laying all his cards on the table now. Right, I'm fighting at world level. He beats Salido. Then what happens then? He's going to be fighting perhaps better guys. Is there a danger that also, we're kind of saying he could turn out to be one of the greatest fighters of all time. He could be a real breakout star. What are the chances of 3 or 4 fights in he's retired after taking 2 beatings?
Yeah, but
because
I would say
basically
low.
bitten off more than he can chew.
Yeah, but you got to respect the ambition. He's just he's coming into the pro game saying, "I'm the man, bring it on." He doesn't seem afraid of fighting anyone. So the question is, the furthest he's been is 6 rounds, but he trains like a beast, and he's been training like a beast since he was a little boy. So yeah, I mean it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. Plus, surely, even if Lomachenko wants to fight the best possible people out there, Top Rank might try and caution.
Yeah.
Too much overreaching. But
it's going to be interesting. Okay, one final question for you. Will Carl Froch? In fact, it isn't one final question. We've got one more thing to talk about after this, but I'm just going to quickly ask you, because I've just seen yet another image of Froch and Groves. Do you think that will happen next year, the rematch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I think I do too.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it makes sense. It's because I think a rematch would still be a sort of a fight of 2 halves as well. Financially, it must be pretty appealing to Carl Froch. He's a proud man, and so that I don't think he'll like people if he doesn't fight Groves. I don't think he'd like being criticised for that.
Yeah.
But I also don't think he likes the way George has been sort of talking since their fight, and also it makes sense for him now to sound cold on it, because surely from a bargaining position you want to try and be in a position of strength, don't you?
Yeah.
But so I think it makes sense for that fight to happen. Maybe it will, but it could depend on George Groves if they're he's not tied to a promoter at the moment. so he's proved that he's a great, that he's an excellent world level fighter. So he must be appealing to a lot of promoters around the world.
Yeah.
And there are other super middleweight world titles out there for him to go for. So we'll wait and see. I think Froch would surely regret letting a rematch slip away from him.
I think he would in the long run. Maybe not, maybe not in the next year or two. But I think when he was to look back on his career, and if that was just a question mark hanging over his legacy, that would be something he would definitely regret.
Yeah.
Okay, well, pretty much there. What we were all working busily, it doesn't stop at Boxing News, but we're all busily working on next week's issue. There's a massive feature on Mike Tyson, where we get some really good insight from the likes of Larry Merchant, who obviously spent so much of his time in the 1980s and 90s on broadcasting duties for the Mike Tyson years, and he's got some really good stuff to say about Mike. We've also got Steve Lott, who's saying things as well. Who's a friend of Mike and was there at the beginning and is still around now, and really insightful stuff. And Mike Tyson, for me personally, is perhaps, and it's probably because I kind of grew up during that whole reign of terror, and I remember being 7-8 years old, getting up in the middle of the night, watching him knock out Trevor Berbick, watching him beat Pinkland Thomas and Michael Spinks and all that. But for me, Mike Tyson is perhaps the most gripping story in boxing history, not for all the right reasons. But now I think he retired ultimately in 2005 following that loss to McBride. I think that was his fifth or sixth loss. And at one point, I remember in 1988, it looked like he was going to be 100-0, something like that. I mean, as we look back now, John, on his career, can you? Is it fair to say that he was a waste of that immense talent that he had?
Well, I mean, like you say, he had such an impact. He will go down in history, of course. But there's so many. I just think of all the sort of the fortune he could have made, the fortune he made, but instead of keeping, just threw away.
Yeah.
It seems, maybe not a wasted talent because of the impact he had, but a wasted life in that you can compare, his story seems to have an unhappy ending. And the crimes he committed was convicted of. I mean, the British government hasn't forgiven him. Yeah. I think that he's got a sort of slightly more benign image now after appearing in The Hangover. But I think that made a difference.
Yeah, it did.
But it's also a shame if he sort of, he got that, that better image by sort of being a figure of fun then, rather than, a respected champion. You compare him to like Lennox Lewis, who's sort of, left boxing in the right way with a sort of future secure. Mike Tyson is a troubling story, I think, really, and it just showed, but maybe more. You can't sort of not what he achieved in the ring and the records he broke, but for his life outside of the ring also matters as well.
Yeah, and I think we almost speak because he is kind of he's produced this successful kind of travelling stage show, The Undisputed Truth. His autobiography now has been immensely popular, and I think when Tyson was kind of going off the rails, it did seem a certainty that his story would end, rather nastily and quickly. And the fact that he is doing these things now, people are now saying, well, he's got his life on track. But it wasn't so long ago that we heard that he was back on drugs and that sort of thing. And I do, without wishing to be, think too negative of things, I do think that this Tyson story will continue to run and run. And that perhaps we're not necessarily going to witness a happy ending for Mike.
Yeah. And even though he had so much talent, he was potentially as talented as any, as many of the heavyweights in history. But you think of other sort of great heavyweight champions, and they had like Muhammad Ali or Jack Johnson or Joe Louis. They sort of, they had an impact on the world outside of sport, outside of boxing as well. I'm not saying any fight has to be like that.
Yeah.
But it's the Mike Tyson story is very different to that because it's one of crimes and tragedies as well as his triumphs.
Yeah.
But it's what makes him such a compelling figure, and why I'm looking forward to reading this feature in next week's magazine.
Exactly. Well, that should be available to download next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll leave you for now, but thanks for listening. Happy New Year to all the Opening Bell listeners and to all boxing news readers, and we'll be back next week for more. So thanks again, and best wishes. Cheers, John.
Thanks.